This next module is all about components. So in SketchUp, components are really the bricks and mortar of any 3D modeling process, and especially complicated 3D modeling processes such as architectural modeling for drafting. So there's a lot to how to use components properly and when to use them. And the most efficient way to go over these things that components can do is just to see it in action. So we'll go ahead and jump straight to the demo. In this demo, we will import and adjust birch and ash trees into our model to replace our tree markers. And we will start setting up layers and scenes for further work. So in particular, we will look at advanced warehouse search options, adjusting downloaded components. We will look at how groups are different from components and why you should always use components, essentially. We will look at swapping components, and we will start setting up our scenes and layers. Alright, so let's open up DIS1 M3 terrain.skp provided in the demo folder. When we open the file, we basically see what we left off at the end of the previous module. And what we're going to do now is we're going to populate these tree markers with actual trees. But before we do that, since these trees will be components, I want to take a moment to talk about components in a more general way and how they're supposed to be used for architectural modeling inside of SketchUp. So because we're going to be taking the model through all of the stages of the architectural design process inside of SketchUp, so from concepts to preliminaries to construction models and drawings, we need to pay a special attention to how our components will be structured, because if you do it right, you can actually get components inside of SketchUp to do a lot of the work for you. So if you were to define the goals that a component needs to fulfill inside of your model, you will need to think of two sets of goals simultaneously. So the first set of goals is related to actual 3D modeling and presentation of the model. So if the component needs to be workable inside of SketchUp, and it needs to be presentable when that's appropriate. So either for simple presentation drawings or for more elaborate architectural renderings. That's the first set of goals. The second set of goals for the exact same component is that we want to be able to use that component in a 2D view when we're drafting our plans, either inside of SketchUp or inside of Layout. So that being said, each component that you make and each component that you import into SketchUp needs to fulfill these two goals in order to, first of all, allow you to save time, and second, to maximize the potential of SketchUp for architectural modeling. So that being said, because the trees that we're going to be planting here, we will need to use them for working purposes, so we'll need something that's just, represents the tree that we want to work with, but that's fast and doesn't take much processing power because the model of the house itself will get heavy with time. But we also need a high resolution model of the tree that we can later use for presentation models and for later on for architectural renderings. So for the tree, we will actually need to import two variations of the same tree. And the way to do this is, of course, by using the Google Warehouse. Now, there's two ways of accessing the Google Warehouse. The first one is by clicking on the 3D Warehouse button here. And then you have this window that opens up inside of SketchUp. And that basically allows you to, look for different components. I actually don't recommend to use the 3D Warehouse window inside of SketchUp, because once you find a component, you can't actually return to the same page after you've inserted it into your model. So I always use the 3D Warehouse inside my web browser. So we're going to go ahead and go into Google Chrome. Alright, so with Google Warehouse opened in Google Chrome, I'm going to start looking for components. So I'm going to do the birch tree first, and because we need two versions of the birch tree, I'm going to use the advanced search page to find exactly what I want. So in the text field, I'm going to type birch. And what I'm really interested in on this page is the model complexity option. So I'm going to look for the low-res model first. So I'm going to select something that's less than 10 polygons, which is really, really low. So I'm going to search, and yeah, there you go. So all of these results are really low-res trees. They're most likely just cards that are intersecting each other at an angle. I'm just going to click on the first one, and you can preview a component before downloading it by clicking on these rotating arrows buttons. And yeah, this is actually perfect because the reason why for lower res trees you want to use something similar to this is because when we're going to be simulating angles of the sun, you still want the component to cast shadows. So some trees are just 2D planes that are constantly facing the camera, and that's not good enough to simulate shadows. So something that intersects itself like this at angles is perfect. So this is what we're going to be using as the low-res model. And of course, have to give the credit to the person that made this. So this is made by Landscaper, and we're going to download it. All right, so as far as for the high res, I'm going to type birch tree, going to be a bit more specific because there's a lot of tables and other furniture made out of birch that we don't want to see in this search. Complexity, I'm going to choose more than 1,500. So that's a fairly high res tree. It's going to be almost certainly 3D, which is good. So the advantage of using Google Warehouse in a web browser is that you can middle click on the components that you think are interesting, and it's going to put them in a separate tab right here. So this one seems good. This one seems good. This one seems good. We want something that has, a lot of leaves, so it gives us more option when we're about to render that. So let's look at these trees. All right, so after looking at all of the birch models, this one seems like the best. So this one's made by Jose Manuel. So thank you for that. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and download that. All right, very well. So these two are actually also provided in your demo folder. In the next clip, we will open them up and start working inside of the component.